Hello again, most esteemed viewers. My name is Jekyllstein Gray, and today we are going to Scarborough Fair. After we check out the settings, so yeah, today we're playing Rituals in the Dark. It's part of my attempt to provide an excuse for it's the start of my attempt to provide an excuse to play more spooky games in October, and this game is one I've been meaning to try. I found it on Steam, and I put it really high on my wish list, and I bought it. I was like, sweet, light horror elements in Scarborough, place where the place Scarborough Fair was about. Nice! And a gay romance bonus! Alright, let's begin. Aspen Draper was probably one of the last people to see the elderly Mrs. Lay still alive, and she was definitely the first person to see her after she had died. Mrs. Lay had lived next door to Aspen for as long as the teenage girl could remember, in her semi-detached house on Paradise Road. Paradise Road, despite its grandiose name, didn't live up to expectations. It was like any other street in Scarborough, really. Gray, cramped, and gently sloping down the side of a shallow hill. The pavement was usually littered with takeaway cartons from kebab houses. The bins never seemed to get emptied on time, no matter how often Aspen's mother complained to the local council. At night, Aspen could hear stray cats fighting or worse, mating outside her window. Despite the street's numerous flaws, however, Mrs. Lay had lived there for almost all her life, or ever since I got married to Ivor, as she herself put it. Aspen had lived on Paradise Road all her life, too, and though she'd met Mrs. Lay on many occasions, she'd never had the pleasure of speaking to her husband. Ivor had died before Aspen had been born. Wow. Mrs. Lay was old, though Aspen didn't know quite how old. Aspen presumed the woman must have been in her 70s or 80s, maybe even 90s, but it seemed rude to ask. The elderly Mrs. Lay was a mysterious creature with no fixed age. She had looked much the same to Aspen when she was 6 and when she was 16. Well, I mean, people's ages tend to get less pronounced as time goes on. If Mrs. Lay had changed at all over the decade, Aspen couldn't tell. Mrs. Lay exuded a constant aura of frailty and elderliness, an aura which was further compounded by her penchant for closing her blue remy. That's the second word I'm having trouble pronouncing after Getya. I don't know, esteemed viewers. Back in my day, Aspen didn't know when exactly Mrs. Lay's day had been, but it must have been years and years ago, decades even. It was certainly long before Aspen had been born, and it might have been before her parents had been born too. Mrs. Lay didn't seem to have any friends or family. Wow, this is a lot of backstory on Mrs. Lay. Though Aspen had lived next to Mrs. Lay for 16, bordering on 17 years. 16, bordering on... Yeah. You've heard enough of my singing for today, esteemed viewers. Whoa! Okay, I accidentally right-clicked. I guess I'll save right now. I mean, why not? Okay, I guess right-click brings up the save menu. That's good to know. Though Aspen lived next to Mrs. I already did that. She rarely saw cars that were... Okay, so this is modern day. I wasn't sure about that. Or at least Victorian, I should say. Old unused Nissan parked in the driveway. The car probably belonged to Ivor when he was still alive. Maybe that was my Mrs. Lay never touched it. Does she even drive? The old woman seemed so very frail, with her slender wrists and her slow, shuffling gait, that Aspen doubted it. Aspen had never seen any children, grandchildren, nieces, or nephews grace the doorstep of Mrs. Lay's home. It was just Mrs. Lay and occasionally the woman from the council called Rebecca, but call me Bex, who came around. Bex. I've never heard of Bex. My mom's name is actually Rebecca, although it's spelled differently. Who came around a few times a week to buy Mrs. Lay groceries and clean her kitchen. Thinking about it, Rebecca should have been the one to discover Mrs. Lay's body first. Surely that was her job. Rebecca was employed not only to aid the elderly woman in her twilight years, but to save any poor, wide-eyed, nail-biting neighborhood girls from stumbling upon Mrs. Lay. Oh boy. Yeah, I was gonna say that is way too specific to not be foreshadowing. Rebecca hadn't shown up on that particular Sunday. Sunday was her day off, and it had been Aspen who found the body, not Rebecca. That's just how life goes. But to arrive at the point of Aspen finding Mrs. Lay's body, the old woman's eyes rolled up in her head and her mouth. Ugh. She spent most of her life ignoring Mrs. Lay as best she could, though her mother had told her to smile and wave when she saw the old deer pottering around in her garden. That's what Aspen's mother called Mrs. Lay, the old deer, and Aspen supposed she was harmless enough. Privately, however, Aspen always thought that Mrs. Lay was a little creepy. Mrs. Lay was a small and shrugging creature, a living specimen pickled in vinegar. Her hair was very thin and white, and it was often tied back in a bun that exposed a worrying amount of baby pink scalp. Her fingers, meanwhile, were gnarled like the roots of a tree. Mrs. Lay was sometimes bad. There's the yawn. The yawn is like my catchphrase at this point. Mrs. Lay would sometimes meander around in her front garden when the weather was nice and her joints were up to it. She'd finger the overgrown cluster of sweet peas and the pear trees that were even older and frailer than she was with a satisfied nod, as if the plants in her garden were supposed to be dying. Maybe Mrs. Lay was so old, her eyesight so poor, that she simply couldn't see that her precious roses had been half devoured by caterpillars, her snapdragons and marigolds overrun by weeds. Or maybe she did know, but she knew she was too old to do anything about it. I guess that would be wise. Mrs. Lay could hardly don a pair of gardening gloves and kneel down in the dirt at her age, whatever her age was. She'd throw her back out her dislocated kneecap, and then she'd never be able to get back up again. Mrs. Lay seemed perfectly content to meander, nursing a mug of warm tea in her choppy fingers and a thick cardigan thrown over her shoulders, as she admired what had once been a pretty flower garden. When Mrs. Lay saw Aspen, typically on her way back home from primary school or ballet practice, she would smile and say how big she was getting. Aspen, who'd always been shy, would murmur words of thanks at her mother's behest, then hurry indoors, where Mrs. Lay's sad smile couldn't reach her. For many years, these were the only interactions the two had. But that changed on Aspen's 13th birthday when the old woman did something quite surprising. She bought Aspen a present. Well, bought might have not been the correct word. Mrs. Lay rarely went 3 paces past her front garden, and she certainly never went to Sainsbury's. That was Rebecca's job. Instead, Mrs. Lay wrapped one of her own ornaments up in paper, put it inside a shoebox, and left it on the draper's doorstep with a card attached. The ornament was small and made of painted silk. Though most of the paint had flaked away. Depicted a little girl in a leotard and tutu. Okay, I'm actually curious, is this just going to be all reading? I mean, I wouldn't mind, because I like reading, but I was expecting more of a, Doki Doki Literature Club style visual novel. Oh, hey, interesting. I can do that with the scroll wheel. One of the girl's hands had snapped off, and her nose was broken, but it was a sweet gesture all the same. Aspen's father had been convinced that the little ornament was worth a pretty penny, and he took it to an antique shop to be appraised, much to his wife's yeah, seriously! You're not gonna sell it, Penny. Art gallery. Interesting. The card Mrs. Lay left Aspen was decorated with an image of a young, rosy-cheeked girl in a pale blue dress playing with a jump rope. The card was very pastel, almost washed out, and seemed to have come from another era, maybe the 1960s or 70s. Inside the card, Mrs. Lay had written, in faint, spidery hand, Dear Althea. Mrs. Lay had often got Aspen's name wrong. I hope you like a present. I saw it and it reminded me of you. I know you practice ballet and thought you might get more enjoyment out of it than I do. Love, Marguerite. Up until that day, Aspen hadn't known what Mrs. Lay's first name was. She'd always called her Mrs. Lay. She never even stopped to consider that Mrs. Lay might have a first name at all. Seemed almost inconceivable. Inconceivable! Sorry, I just had to do that. Mrs. Lay's first name, Marguerite, didn't really suit her. The name was too light and jaunty. It conjured up images of pretty dark-haired girls in red furfled dresses, dancing beneath the moonlight, not an elderly woman in frumpy clothes. Why? Why did names have different... what? First of all, I've never even heard of Marguerite, and so I don't have any. I guess I don't have any particular, connotation. That's the word. Maybe Mrs. Lay had been more like Marguerite in the past. Maybe her white hair had been dark, and she had worn red ruffles, and she had danced the night away. She must have been young and vivacious and full of life once upon a time. Maybe it had been when Ivor was still alive, or Ivor. I don't know how to. That's the third name I don't know how to pronounce. I guess Marguerite, I think I'm getting right, but I'm also not 100% sure about that. But Aspen couldn't imagine it. Aspen didn't want to call Mrs. Lay Marguerite. For some reason, it made her feel sad. It felt too much like a wasted opportunity. Pastime that would never ever come back. Mrs. Lay was always and would be Mrs. Lay to Aspen. The revelation of Mrs. Lay's full name, however, was not the crucial takeaway from that letter. It was clear that, though Mrs. Lay and Aspen had only exchanged the briefest of greetings over the past 13 years, Mrs. Lay had been paying more attention to Aspen than she herself had ever realized. True, she'd gotten Aspen's name wrong. Aspen was quite an unusual name, not very Yorkshire. Then again, neither was Althea. Yeah, Aspen's a proud member of Weird Names Anonymous, like myself. But Mrs. Lay knew enough about Aspen to know she took ballet classes. At least she had taken ballet classes. Aspen had quit when she started secondary school. Going to her lessons every Friday had been a painful experience. Ballet Mistress 1, oh boy. Okay, this name seems almost intentionally hard to pronounce. Miss Preobrazhenskaya. Now you're just messing with me. Who hailed from Russia and whose name Aspen could not pronounce. Well, at least that makes two of us. It was very strict. And if she was bad, the other girls were worse. Aspen had attended ballet classes from the age of 5, with the childish dream of someday being a dancer. The young girl soon learned, however, that she was not and would never be as charming, flexible, or be okay, so... okay, that's unfairly dismissive. Not I shouldn't say like so, but I also don't think that's anything to be to mourn. I think there's more things like that. But anyway, whatever. I'm not this person. I don't know what. I don't know. Aspen had already given up her dancing dreams when Mrs. Lay bequeathed her that tiny ballerina. But it was a thoughtful gift, nevertheless. It was very kind of her, said Aspen's mother, Penny. You should go over to her house and thank her. Aspen hadn't wanted to go to Mrs. Lay's house and thank her. She would have rather stuck her fingers in the toaster. Wow! Okay. No, don't be like that, Penny. It's interesting how she's given it. She's like the opposite of the Calvin and Hobbes parents. You know, she's actually she has a name and they refer to her by her name. They don't be like that, Penny had said, tutting. Mrs. Lay is an old, lonely woman. She needs some company, and she did send you a gift. You should show a bit of appreciation. Aspen's mother could be quite assertive when she wanted, and the young girl knew there was no getting around her. Whew! She had to go and visit Mrs. Lay, and so she did. One Sunday morning, with her hair neatly braided, she wearing a blue gingham dress, Aspen walked through Mrs. Lay's overgrown front garden and knocked on her door. She intended to say a quick thank you for the gift and then bolt, but Mrs. Lay had other ideas. With a small smile betraying just the slightest twinge of discomfort, Mrs. Lay had arthritis, and even smiling seemed to hurt her. The old woman ushered Aspen inside. What could she do? Refuse? If she had, Penny, who was always anxious about maintaining good relationships with the neighbors, would have flayed her. Okay. That seems a bit extreme. So Aspen, hesitant though she was, stepped inside. When Mrs. Lay closed the wooden front door behind her, Aspen couldn't help but feel like one of the children from Hansel and Gretel. Okay! I mean, she's like 13 and then... Yeah, okay, that checks out. Was Mrs. Lay going to lock her in a cage, cook her in her oven? Aspen never... Okay, that's good. They struggled to pick up a reading glasses to 13-year-old girls. There was no way... There was actually... I talked about this in other videos, but I'm sure no one has, like, seen all of my... So, anyway. There was a... Over the summer... There was someone who, yeah, we all want that. There was like a woman who asked me to help, like, carry stuff at the beach or whatever, and I had the conditioned, stranger danger response of, like, I would say, like, I had the conditioned, like, response of, the stranger danger, and then I was like, I am, like, a head taller than, I think, there was, a couple kids and another, and I'm like, I'm a head taller and, like, half a foot wider than anyone involved here, so if this is a kidnapping plot, it is the dumbest one ever. pink wafers, ginger nuts, custard cream, chocolate fingers, and bourbons. Mrs. Lay never ate any of the biscuits herself. She laughed and said she was on a diet. That didn't stop her from playing in a... Okay. Huh. Okay, I actually would be interested in hearing what Mrs. Aspen not Mrs. Lay had to say. But then again, I'm weird, so I didn't, and something of an old soul, so I'd be interested in hearing old people's words. Maybe she was too lost in her own reminiscences to ask out those ready, I guess. According to the news, they were going through a cold snap. Icy winds blew in from the sea and the wind howled despairingly in the night. Aspen went to school wearing 2 sweatshirts beneath her coat, but it made little difference. By the time she got to her classroom, her fingers felt so frozen she worried they might shatter. Okay, I'm actually, for some reason, I really need to know, esteemed viewers, I apologize. I'm just gonna check the store page here. No, it looks like it is actually a visual novel. Interesting. So this woman of indeterminate age can do at least. Mrs. Lay didn't look any sicker than she usually did, though she complained about her. Okay, so she just kind of died suddenly. Chopped the liver inside the wind howled. For some reason, that reminded me of the opening of The Invisible Man. Mrs. Lay was in the kitchen. She'd begun to brew the tea and plate up biscuits as per her normal routine. Aspen had offered to help, and Mrs. Lay waved a small act of kindness aside. "It's very kind of you, dear," she said, "but I'm not infirm just yet. I can take care of myself. You sit down and read a magazine." Obedient to a fault, that's me. Aspen sat down, and she didn't read a magazine. Mrs. Lay was subscribed to Women's Weekly and Women at Home, neither of which Aspen found riveting. Yeah, me neither, Aspen. Instead, Aspen watched the clock. The minutes slowly passed. 1, then 2, then 5. Uh-oh. In order to take that long, she had heard the sounds of the old kettle brewing, the cupboard slamming. Everything was curiously quiet. So Aspen got to her feet, her heart pounding with trepidation. Already she knew something was wrong and exited the living room. She walked through the hallway, sidestepping an old pair of Mrs. Lay's slippers on the little wooden table topped with a chunky telephone, and made her way to the kitchen. "Mrs. Lay?" she said softly, questioningly. "Mrs. Lay?" But there was no reply. Aspen stood at the kitchen door, which was closed. She felt sick, and the moment she already knew, via some deep primordial instinct that lays dormant inside each and every one of us, that if she opened that door, there would be no going back. Her life would never be the same again. But Aspen shook her head. She told herself, like we so often tell ourselves when we know something to be true, not with it. Okay, it's interesting because I have the opposite problem. I'm sure in this scenario I would be like, yeah, okay, I would think that as well. But my thought process, I've got anxiety, so I kind of tend to catastrophize. So she opened the door. What Aspen saw that day stayed with her ever since, like a birthmark. The old-fashioned kettle had finished boiling, and the steam was slowly rising from the spout. 2 mugs had been set on the counter, already filled with tea leaves. They were ready to receive the warm water from the kettle, but no water was forthcoming. A plate of biscuits lay by the mugs. Mrs. Lay had prepared jammy Dodgers. The jam looked so very real and artificial beneath the yellow lights, it was almost nauseating. So very red and artificial. Okay, I don't know, real and artificial. Anyway, as for Mrs. Lay herself, she was sitting there, perhaps sitting as the night word at the kitchen table. She was leant back in her chair, fingers resting on the tabletop, and a cardigan half falling off one shoulder, and she was quite still. And so Aspen would have supposed she was sleeping, save for one crucial detail. Her eyes were open. Her eyes were open so wide they were almost bulging out of her head. Jesus Christ. Mrs. Lay's milky blue irises were rolled upwards, revealing a worrying amount of white, and her head was lolling. Her mouth was open, too. Her face was contorted into a frightening, silent scream, for no noise would come from her mouth. She was dead. It was a heart attack, the doctor said when they arrived at the scene. It had been quiet, understated kind of death, all things considered. The old woman hadn't made a single sound. Well, at least she would have some dignity, I guess. Mrs. Lay, while preparing the plate of biscuits, must have felt a stab of pain inside her chest. Accustomed to such aches and pains, she was an old woman after all. She'd sat down at the kitchen table and waited for the pain to pass. If Mrs. Lay hadn't tried to get Aspen's attention, though perhaps thought had flitted through her mind, hadn't wanted to worry her guest. Maybe Mrs. Lay had always known, though she never admitted that Aspen found their weekly tea parties a chore. The old woman was aware that she was imposing on the young girl, but how could she help herself? Aspen was the only company she had other than Rebecca. Mrs. Lay hadn't wanted to cause more trouble than she had already, so she sat there, her body racked with pain while the kettle brewed, and very silently and very politely passed away. All considered, it was quite a brutish way to go. Okay, I've had every John Oliver British repression joke just flashed before my eyes. Maybe one could even have called it noble, brave, heroic, but the thought of Mrs. Lay suffering silently, too anxious to ask Aspen for help, only made the younger, it would definitely make me feel guilty if only she could have done something. But Aspen had done nothing, and by the time she'd realized something was amiss, it was already too late. This was the first time Aspen had seen a dead body outside of scenes in detective dramas rooms. I don't think I've ever actually seen a dead body in person. Might be wrong, though. She hoped it would be the last. Yeah, of course she did. Unfortunately, none of her classmates or even her friends would ever let her live it down. Okay, text part over. We're gonna do a little bit of this visual novel part, and then we'll call it for today because I got other stuff I want to start. Aspen, that's right. That's where you found her body. Okay, I just remembered my family has a mug that literally says, "How's your Aspen?" It's like it's spelled Aspen. I'm not sure if I should make that the subtitle. Part of me really wants to, but I'm also anyway. Well, I don't know. That's where you found her body. Yeah. Ew, how creepy. Though separated by a lilac wall from Mrs. Lay's house. How does it feel living next to a place where a body was found? It doesn't feel like anything, really. Oh, God. Okay, did you, even check to make sure she wanted to talk about it? It's interesting how she's part of the text box, not... I mean, heard any strange noises? What kind of strange noises? No. No, I have not felt a ghost. Still seriously creepy. I'd be so freaked out if I had to live next to a spooky old house like that. Oh god, I'm gonna butcher this. Lahi raised a neatly plucked eyebrow. This isn't a horror movie and we're not little kids. Yes, thank you, Lahi. Also, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. I know, but it's the thought of it. Can you imagine? Okay, really? Yeah, exactly. This seems really insensitive, guys. Her house looks so run down, too. The garden's a mess and the windows are all boarded up. Guess nobody's moved in yet? I don't think anybody would want to. It would be quite a hard sell for even the most charismatic of real estate agents. Yeah, you can say that again. Here you have the kitchen. It's located near the back of the house, away from the road. And it's got windows looking out into the garden, a refrigerator, a washing machine, and an oven. If you look to your right, there's where the previous occupant was found, so cold dead at the breakfast table. Okay, I actually would be more interested in that house, but then again, I am a macabre weirdo. Nobody moved in to Mrs. Lay's house except the squatters. Squatters broke in through the windows. I mean, yeah, so who else is gonna take them? I mean, these people probably didn't have much stuff. They make them sound like her china cups are a dog. Garden which brought Mrs. Lay such joy is now deader than ever, as if such a thing was possible. The weeds had overrun the snapdragons, stifled the marigolds, and the roses were more holes than flowers. Ugh. I continued on. Yeah. She should probably get some therapy. Pippa leaned forward, her voice leant forwards, her voice dropping into a whisper. And what was it like seeing it? How did it make you feel? Lucky, who had disdain down to a fine art, wrinkled her nose. I bet it was disgusting. Look, you guys. Aspen shifted on the edge of her bed, fingers linked together. Her bare right foot twitched against the carpet. I don't want to talk about it. Why not? We're your friends, aren't we? We are friends, but you don't need to tell anybody else. You can tell us. Scout's honor. You never once been a scout, and lucky you. I've been, and I would never really liked it. But it's not a question. It's just a question of not wanting to talk about it. It's a figure of speech. Well, can't really remember. It was more than 5 months ago. Liar, lucky. People don't just forget things like that. At least I wouldn't. We have an all geniuses like you. Oh, ouch. It was dark outside, beyond Aspen's drawn curtains, and the three girls were sitting on the edge of Aspen's bed in their pajamas. While Aspen and Pippa were dressed demurely, Lucky was attired in something a little more revealing. Lucky's nightwear is okay. I don't know why they need to describe this, but whatever. Aspen wondered if it wasn't too cold in Scarborough, which was by the seafront, to wear such skimpy clothes, but perhaps Lucky's body was still tuned to the warmth of Indian summers. Despite the fact that her parents moved to England when she was still a child, Lucky's like that fictional Indian character in that Trevor Noah stand-up where, you talked about how great it was, so we decided to come back here. We were Britain, you're the Empire. Well, in that case, the Empire strikes back. Once again, I apologize if that was insensitive, and I would love to hear any criticism, and if I hear any criticism, I'll stop doing it. I would not have used that accent if I wasn't quoting a comedian of color. Anyway, again, just let me know and I'll stop. It wasn't yet midnight, and the three girls wouldn't be going to sleep for several more hours. That was the sleepover story. Yeah. My sleepovers, there was usually sleep, just not very much sleep. I've only stayed up all night once, according to my memory. But the bourgeois. Why is there so much? Okay. Yeah, come on, people! Like, why are you so... Yeah, come on, Penny! Jenny told Anna, yeah... Wisdom and sadness are often linked. Ugh. Oh boy. Oh man, I can't even imagine. Well, I can't imagine, and I really don't want to. Yeah, all those things. Certainly not funny and audacious. I don't think I'm very good looking, and grades are not as good as, I got good grades, but I wasn't a valedictorian. I'm quiet and soft-spoken in a lot of contexts. Obviously not when I'm doing this channel. I've received several noise complaints from my sisters. Not recently, because I've worked around it, whatever. But in a lot of normal social circumstances, yeah, didn't seem worth the effort. In lieu of having any real abilities or any noteworthy achievements, Aspen became famous for finding a corpse. I would hate that. In fact, the whole thing was quite depressing. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. That's That's rough, buddy. I mean, you don't recover from something like that super easy. Damn it, Pippa! You're at a sleepover. You don't get sleep anyway. Thestrals and... Oh boy. I mean, I think this game came out... Here, let me check. Yeah, 2019. So this was, I think, before we knew. You're no fun. Yeah, seriously. Okay, I would totally apologize in that scenario. I also don't think she should apologize. Really? Really, Lucky? Oh boy. Yes. That is the... Oh no. What is wrong with you, Pippa? Aspen, you gotta get better friends. Oh, wow. What? Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't really... I think one of my siblings once crawled in the washing machine and got... You know, I can't remember. That, I don't know. No, it's not the law. Have you never heard of oh my, you've never heard, I've heard of Truth or Dare. I don't think I've ever played it, but... Alright, we're gonna get to, like, past this Truth or Dare, and then I'll have to... Wasn't literally so bad. What the hell, Pippa? What? Yeah. Okay, on the one hand, yeah, don't make fun of your hair. On the other hand, I would feel more sympathetic for her if she isn't also terrible. If she wasn't a terrible person. Is this made by a British developer? Because it feels very British. I don't know though. Yeah. I know. Oh no. Uh-oh. Shouldn't it be the other way? Shouldn't you start with the... Okay, whatever. Shouldn't you start with an easy one? Really, guys? Really, guys? Okay, we have to be better than this, you guys. Freaking... You're making fun of her teeth? Ugh. I mean, that is usually how Truth or Dare goes. Oh boy. I can relate. Oh no. That's so mean to, like, I'm sure it would suck for Lucky, but, it would also be mean to her brother. Oh, I was going to say there's a difference between not wanting to be romantically involved with someone and being, and hating, and actually hating them. But this line kind of makes it look like she does hate him. Oh boy. Okay, I can kind of see why she doesn't want to be with him then. Okay, so she went from crush to marriage? Immediately. Is that some... I'm guessing it's a Bollywood star. I mean... I don't know. I wouldn't say uncultured. I don't know. Oh no. Do I have to choose? Oh no. What? I'm sorry. In what universe is that true? Oh God. Yeah. No. No. For those of you who don't know, The Casco Amontillado is an Edgar Allan Poe story about a guy who gets trapped in a, like, gets bricked up. Ugh. Oh God. How long have I been going here? Oh man, almost 40 minutes. That is not a... Okay, screw you, PIPPA. Alright. That's enough for today. Here. Yes. Alright, esteemed viewers. That was the first part of my... I'm gonna try and finish this whole game, Rituals in the Dark. I actually liked it kind of more than I was expecting. I was kind of expecting to, like it, but I was not expecting to spend. Sorry, I was not expecting to spend like 40 minutes playing it. Yeah. If you want to get notified when I start my other series and when any of these new Rituals in the Dark videos come out, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. If you have any thoughts and or criticisms and or snarky one-liners, I don't know, leave them let me know in the comments. Give me a like if you liked it. All those things help me with the algorithm. I would really appreciate any of them. Also, they help my self-esteem some, but that's not as important. Sorry, I got distracted. Share it with anybody you think will like it. There should be some more stuff in the Twitter and letterbox and link below. Should be some more stuff on screen right now. Alright, esteemed viewers, I've been Jekyllstein Gray. I've got more stuff to record after I upload this one, so I'll see you later. Bye-bye!